Let's go back to page 372. 13. Just as it's forbidden to explicitly tell a non-Jew to do Melacha for you on Shabbat, it is also prohibited to hint to him these instructions. There are a few exceptions when it comes to hinting, but in general, it's a common misconception that merely hinting to a non-Jew permits you to let a goy do Melacha for you. Nope, it's not true. That's a misconception. 14. It is prohibited to hint in the form of a command, such as one who asks a non-Jew to do an action that involves a direct melacha through the nature of what the action is, or through the nature of the action is not specified. And the non-Jew understands from this request that he must perform a melacha. Therefore, it is prohibited to tell a non-Jew, please help me. The light is on in my room and I cannot sleep. Or, do me a favor, right? So what did I say? Please help me. Do me a favor. You can't say that. You're commanding him, even through a hint, right? And now what? And I didn't tell him, please help me turn off my light. But I said, please help me. The light is on my room. I don't know what to do. And I can't sleep. Similarly, one cannot say, I cannot turn off the lights because it is Shabbat. Since the Jew mentioned that the non-Jew, that there's a melacha involved, so therefore it's considered a form of command. However, it's permitted to one to simply state, the light is on my room and I cannot sleep. You could say that because the non-Jew, because there's no mention of melacha. It comes out when you hint. Even when you hint, you cannot give a direct command and you cannot mention the melacha that you want him to do. So, and also you said before, it has to be that you're allowed to benefit from what he's doing. We said turning on a light will not be allowed if you can't read in that room because you're benefiting. But turning off the light is an indirect benefit. He didn't create the darkness, so it's an indirect benefit. 15. Hinting by means of a gesture. What if I don't say any words? I just go like this. Like that, with my hands. So he says, hinting by means of a gesture to a non-Jew to perform melacha is also considered a hint in the form of a command and is prohibited. For instance, one may not point to a light switch so that the non-Jew will turn it on. 16. Imagine a guy, what does he do? He says, I'm smart. I won't point. I won't say. I'll write on a piece of paper before Shabbat, please turn off the light. And I'll just show him the paper on Shabbat. Well, I didn't command him, no. It is also prohibited to write on a paper on Erev Shabbat the instructions of what melacha one wants and show the paper to a non-Jew on Shabbat. Such a way of hinting is considered a hint in the form of command. Likewise, it is not permitted to stipulate with a non-Jew before Shabbat that through a certain word he should understand a particular melacha. Let's say you train your worker. When I say cucumbers, that means you have to go do laundry. When I say pickles, it means you have to go and turn on all the lights in the basement. You can't do that. That's also, even if you set that up before Shabbat, that's not allowed. 17, in a case where one will suffer substantial financial loss, it is permitted to hint in the form of a command. For example, we said a case where a guy's house is on fire, God forbid. And what does he say? He says, whoever saves my items will not lose out. So you'll be able to, the guy will have to go inside the house and fight the fire and save your items. That'll be allowed for substantial loss. A hint that is not in the form of a command is permitted. Such a hint must not include any mention of the melacha or nor a request to take action. You just have to explain the situation. In that case, that will be a permitted way to hint, as long as you also are allowed to benefit from the item. So let's say the case is that there's a little bit of light in my room, and I could technically read with difficulty in that room. So therefore, additional benefit, we said, is allowed to. You're allowed to have additional benefit from the goy in that case. So how do I get him to turn it on? I'm not allowed to tell him to turn it on. So that's a case where, since the benefit is allowed, I'll circumvent the issue of telling by hinting in a non-commanding way. Or the other case we said was, the lights are on in my room, and that's an indirect benefit for him to turn it off for me. So there'll be another case where I'm allowed to hint in order to avoid the prohibition of telling him, and at the same time I'm still allowed to benefit from what he did. So therefore, A, one is permitted to say to a non-Jew, the lights in my room are on and I cannot sleep, even though the non-Jew understands from this that the Jew wants it to turn off the lights. Since there's no command and there's no mention of the melacha, it is permitted. So what happens if I say, oh, my light's on in my room. It's Shabbat. I can't turn it off. That's it. You toasted. You did it wrong. Or a guy says, please help me. Come to my house and turn off the light. I cannot sleep. I commanded him what to do. That's it. I can't do that. That's wrong. I have to not mention the Melacha and not tell him what to do. And light is on in my room and I cannot sleep. That's it. So he's going to tell you, oh, too bad, so sad. And he continues walking, right? Okay, so that's a Gentile that doesn't have so much exposure to non-Jews, to Jews. If he would, so then he'll realize that you're trying to tell him that he needs help. You need help. B, if one wants more light in the room, right? There was already light, but you want more light. One may say, there's not enough light in this room for me. Since one is getting only an additional benefit of light, so that'll be permitted. And you hinted it without a command or without mentioning Melacha, so that'll also be allowed. Similarly, if one wants the AC or the heater turned on higher, one may say, it is too warm in the room because the air conditioning is low. Or the room is too cold since the heater is not high enough. So in all those cases, it will be permitted for the goy to hear this and right away and go and do it because I didn't directly tell them. And it's a case where benefit would be allowed anyways. Okay, let's say person C, one who wants the light or fire turned off, is permitted to say to the non-Jew, what a waste of electricity, what a waste of fire. And the non-Jew can deduce from the statement that one wants the light off. And when you turn something off, that's an indirect benefit, which is allowed. Let's say something's on the stove, right? D, it is permitted to tell the non-Jew that the food on the stove is burning. And the non-Jew can deduce from the statement to lower the flame on the stove. Okay, 19. In an instance where one will directly benefit from the Melacha that is being done, and is done on behalf of the Jew, is not permitted to benefit from the Melacha, even if you only hinted, right? Let's say I said, my light is off in my dining room. I can't see anything in there. It's completely dark. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? So I hinted. I didn't say what to do. But still, it's a case where I'm not allowed to benefit. It was completely dark in that room. So that's a case also. Even though I only hinted, it's still a sewer to benefit from what he did. Not 20. It is prohibited to directly ask a non-Jew during the weekday to perform Melacha on Shabbat on one's behalf, even if you pay him to perform the Melacha. I tell my cleaning lady on Friday, before Shabbat, listen, tonight I'm having guests. I'm having a lot of guests in my house. I want you to go and turn on lights. I want you to go and do this melacha, do that melacha, and this and this and that. And the rabbi asked him, how are you able to do that? How can you tell the goyim to do all this? Rabbi, I told him before Shabbat. I didn't tell him on Shabbat. I told him before Shabbat. You should know that is also forbidden. Telling him before Shabbat to do stuff on Shabbat is like you told him on Shabbat. So what are you allowed to tell him? You're only allowed to tell him to do things that are permitted. I want you to come tonight. I want you to stay, wash dishes. I didn't tell him to turn on hot water. I want you to sweep the floor. I didn't tell him to make towels wet and wipe the floor. I told him to sweep the floor. He chose it himself to go and turn on the hot water. He chose himself to go get the broom in the closet and turn on the light in the closet to get the broom. You understand? I didn't tell him to do melacha. So therefore, that would be a case where they were permitted to do all those things because they did it for themselves. Okay. 22. It is prohibited to give a non-Jew money on Erev Shabbat, so he should buy items for you on Shabbat. However, it's permitted to tell him that if he should buy some for himself, and one will buy from him after Shabbat. Okay, we'll stop over here. Baruch